Welcome to this week's Parent Connection webinar session. This is our second webinar this month that is intended to help guide and equip you as both students and parents as you become members of our St. Leo community. Earlier this month we had a very good session about financial aid and billing. You can find the archived version of that by going to our website or by going directly to YouTube and typing in the word St. Leo Parents, all as one word, and you'll find our channel up there on YouTube with all of the archived sessions. On that page, you'll find everything that we've done earlier this year up to this point. Our topic today is Residence Life Questions and Answers, everything that you as a parent and student need to know about the Residence Life process for entering freshmen. Our original guest presenter, Sean Van Gelder, was unable to join us this evening, but we're happy to have his Associate Director, KJ McConnell. KJ, welcome.
Thank you so much.
All right, glad to have you here. Thank you to all for joining us this evening. This seems to be our biggest attendance so far. My name is Stephen Kubashek, and I'm the Director of Parent Relations here at St. Leo University. I'm a two-time graduate of St. Leo, having earned my undergraduate degree in marketing here, as well as an MBA. As you've probably heard me say before, if you've heard me speak, if you have a question about something related to St. Leo, I usually have an answer, and if not, I can tell you who to speak with to answer your question. This presentation will inform and give you a greater understanding of some of the general concepts as well as the specific details that you as the parent of a St. Leo student should keep in mind with regard to the Residence Life process. We're going to give you an overview of important dates, a list of what to bring, what not to bring. We'll also give you an overview of the Residence Life staff that helps keep things running here on campus, and we'll touch on some of the conduct guidelines for students and even give you some helpful tips as a parent. Before we get into the presentation, I want to take a minute and explain a little bit about the Parent Connection webinar program for those of you who are joining us for the first time. These webinars are a relatively new program that we're offering to parents of St. Leo students. We plan to continue to hold webinars on a regular basis for parents of St. Leo students in order to keep you informed about relevant topics. These sessions will provide you with information that you want to know in a convenient format. We'll give you an inside look at how things work at St. Leo and an opportunity to hear from the people who make it happen. We'll be archiving the sessions, so that way if you want to re-listen to certain things, you can do so at your convenience. And if you miss a session, you can go ahead and view it at a later time. As we all know, college is a time of great growth and learning opportunities for students. Those learning opportunities take place both inside and outside of the classroom. And if your student will be living on campus in the fall, the residence halls and the facilities here on campus will quickly become their new homes. Our Residence Life staff is here to make that transition as smooth and easy as possible while providing the necessary support for our students. Since this is a webinar, we have set up the program so that you'll be able to view and listen to our presentation. I'm sure that many of you will have some questions. This session is, after all, a mostly question and answer topic, so I hope you've come prepared with lots of questions. KJ will give you an overview, and throughout her presentation, as you think of questions, please type them into the chat box, and at the end of the presentation, I'll take some time to read those questions and she'll give answers. Here's a little bit more about our presenter tonight. KJ McConnell came to St. Leo University Community in 2010 from the University of North Florida, where she had been serving as Assistant Director. KJ received her Master's of Education in College Student Personnel Administration at James Madison University. While working at St. Leo University, KJ has been recognized with a, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, is it SEAHO?
CEHO, yep. Southeast Student Housing Officers.
Okay. CEHO Service Award, has won awards for program presentations at conferences in 2011 and in 2013, and with a dedicated group of St. Leo resident assistants has helped bring home the statewide Philanthropy Award 2012 and 2013 and the Spirit Cup 2013 from the Florida Resident Assistant Symposium. KJ lives on campus with her adopted shelter dog, Wrigley. All right. KJ and I actually started here at St. Leo as employees on the same day back in June 2010. I've worked closely with her on several issues, and she's always the utmost professional. So we're glad to have you here this evening.
Thanks, Stephen.
One last thing before we get into our presentation. Please keep in mind that FERPA laws prohibit us from answering specific questions pertaining to private student records during this public webinar session. Our staff is happy to address specific student issues privately after this session during normal business hours. They may ask if you have a FERPA release on file. In the follow-up email after this presentation, I'll include a link that takes you to a page on our website with some information about what a FERPA release is and directions on how your student can complete that form that will allow our staff to discuss your student's account and other information. I do, however, encourage you to ask any questions this evening that you have about the Residence Life topic that do not pertain to specific student records. You can ask questions by typing them into the chat box, and we'll take the time to answer them at the end. If we don't get to all the questions, we'll follow up with you personally by phone or email. I think I've gone on long enough with this introduction, so KJ, let's go ahead and begin our presentation.
Okay. We're going to start. I'll just really quickly, some of the discussion points we're going to be touching on in this presentation are what our role is as the Office of Residence Life, a little bit about our staffing, what we do, how you can help transition your student to living on campus, and then, of course, the commonly asked questions, and then we'll get to any uncommonly asked questions you might have for us.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. The role of the Office of Residence Life really ties back into our vision and mission. So our vision is to provide our community members, your students, with the necessary quality programs and services to meet their needs, and hopefully to develop those lifelong critical thinking skills so when they go out into the global community, they'll have a really positive impact. Our mission is to intentionally foster a safe, collaborative, and inclusive living community that promotes students' academic and personal growth in accordance with the university core values. So what we're doing as a department is really trying to support your students. So through our facilities, making sure they have a good living experience with the other students in the community, and then we do provide programming, lots of programming, so your student can get involved. And again, all our programming is built on the university core values. We feel that, again, really helps supplement the academic mission of the university and what St. Leo is really about.
I can testify there are tons of programs going on between what Student Services does on a normal basis plus the Residence Life office. It's that calendar that we have up everywhere you go is always full.
Yeah, lots of food.
Yeah.
Okay, our staff. Our student staff are really the heart of our operation, I'll be honest. I love our student staff. So for all of our floors and buildings, we have resident assistant staff, so RAs, and they're the first point of contact for our students. So they do everything. They'll help your student find where classes are, they'll help with lockouts, they'll help when the roommate is just being really annoying and they don't know what to do. They'll teach them how to do laundry.
Yeah.
What you need, what your student needs, the RAs can be that first point of contact. Our RAs are supervised by resident assistant directors. We call them RADs, and they are rad. They're awesome. We love them. And they're in turn supervised by our graduate assistants and professional staff. Our professional staff, we're a small office, small university. So in addition to our office manager, we have 3 full-time professional staff. Our assistant director, Regina Seguin, myself, and our director, Sean Van Gelder. In terms of leadership and employment opportunities, again, we have many student staff positions. Because we have an RA on each floor, this upcoming year we'll have 54 student staff. So we're one of the largest student employment sites. We also have office assistants in addition to that. So if any of your students, once they've lived on campus and have got to see firsthand what those positions are like, if they're interested in learning more about the leadership opportunities within those positions, we'd certainly love to help them with that. And our employment timeline and dates are on the website, so they're accessible to all students. And when we get closer to, we blast the campus with advertisements. So again, if your student might be interested in that once they hit campus, they can just stay tuned.
All right. A lot of our top student leaders I know are resident assistants, and it's a great opportunity for your students to work on campus and to connect with others and just be a good role model. So definitely, if any students are interested, I would recommend they talk with KJ.
Yeah. Okay, we've touched briefly on what Residence Life does, but again, we house students, so we help with those room assignments. Community development is really important to us. One of my pet peeves is the word dorm. Oh, it gives me shudders. Because a dormitory is really an old-fashioned term for living on campus, and I think it evokes memories of that little cell block with the cot that might not even have comfortable blankets on it, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So you can go to the library to study. Well, our residence halls are not like that. We really want it to be a home for your student for the 9 months they live with us. It's the majority of the year. So we really want it to be comfortable. We do programming. We're interactive. We want students to really connect to each other. So community development is huge for us. We do conduct. So we have rules and policies. And we're not punitive with them. We really do try to be educational. We understand students sometimes feel we're being punitive. But all conduct comes through our office. Roommate mediations and room changes are through us. We help with meal plan assignment for residential students. So if your student changes their assignment, for example, if you live locally and they decide later they want to be a commuter, we can still help them if they're on a traditional meal plan. So that'd be the 5, 10, or unlimited. If they're interested in a commuter block, that does need to be done through train stop and financial aid. So traditional meal plans we can assist with, whether they live on campus or off.
And the commuter block is just basically they prepay for a certain number of meals.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a discount
as
opposed to paying at the desk each time.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And the others are just all inclusive sort of plans.
Inclusive within the plan.
Within the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah. And then we help with facility management. So our plan operations, which does housekeeping and facilities, is a separate department, but we really work with them to make sure that all of your students' needs are being taken care of. So that's our role with facility management. Okay, your role. Oh, this is where I want to sell it to you. We want you to be involved. I think sometimes there can be a misconception that when you drop the students off, they're not your baby anymore, they're not right there with you, they don't need you to be their parent. We need you to be their parent. So we still need you to be very interactive with your student. Again, we have a small office, so even if we wanted to steal that important role from you, we couldn't. So we desperately need you. We need you to give your students advice, to be an advocate for them in the right way by encouraging them to take the steps they need, maybe asking us for advice on what steps your child needs to take. But again, helping them get comfortable with that independence by encouraging them, independence again. We want them to graduate and go off and be self-confident leaders in our world. So we need your help in that transition because we get it's scary. We definitely understand that. And then support them, listen to them when their roommate comes in at midnight and they have an 8 a.m. class and they're stressed, or the roommate ate all their peanut butter and they've been looking for it all week to that peanut butter sandwich. Whatever it is, they do. They need your support. And then again, to celebrate and recognize their successes with them.
I think one of the important things that you touched on there and talked about a little bit, and when I talk with parents on a daily basis, and occasionally I get calls that regard issues with residents' life, I always stress to parents it's be involved in everything and do all of those things, offer support and encouragement. But we ultimately, and I'm sure most parents, want your student to become independent. So we really encourage the students to find out who they need to speak with on campus. And that's part of why we're doing these programs here. So that way as a parent, when your son or daughter calls, they have an issue, you can offer that encouragement and you can say, hey, I know KJ's there, or Sean, go see them and they'll help take care of the issue. So we really encourage parents, offer that support and help your son or daughter make the decisions and connect with the people that they need to see in order to become more independent as a developing student.
Absolutely. And Stephen had touched on the FERPA release, which is really important for our office. I feel like most of our questions once students move in relate to conduct, and we need FERPA to be able to talk through the specifics of those incidents. And we do understand that sometimes all the information might not be getting to you, and you want that so you can hold them accountable and help them develop all these great skills that we're asking you to partner with us in developing. So yeah, please do call. If you have that FERPA release, we would love to share information with you. So again, you can partner with us. We depend on you. Yeah,
and we throw around that FERPA term back and forth a lot here on campus, and I know most of the parents here are parents of freshman students. So just to give you a brief synopsis of what FERPA is, it's basically the Family Education Right to Privacy Act, and it's a series of laws that when your son or daughter is under the age of 18 and in your home and still going to school, those rights and laws, they protect you as the parent. They allow you to access their records and they allow you to do those sort of things and ask for information from the school. When your son or daughter turns 18 and they go to college, all of those rights and privileges flip to your student. And so basically, even though you're paying the bill, writing the check, by federal law, the student has to give you permission to speak with administrators and people here on campus about issues that are considered private by federal law. So it really is important. And like I said at the end there, I'll give you a link on our website that'll explain a little more about it. But just so you know, so we're throwing around this FERPA term. That's basically what we're referring to.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure.
Some of the commonly asked questions we get are about the important dates, about our conduct and policies, about what to bring and what not to bring, and then about our first-year residence halls and roommate requests. So we're going to touch through some of those pretty quickly, and then we'll get to all of the questions you have for us. So important dates. You can see the link here, and again, this webinar will be available later, so you can reference it at your convenience. But this link will take you right to our important dates. So this list that's on the slide right here, these are not all of our important dates. These are our most commonly asked about dates. So you can see they're right here, when move-ins are. And again, you should be getting communication from the first-year involvement office, whether you're students, incoming freshmen, or a transfer. All that communication should be coming through that office. So hopefully you're getting lots of emails from them, getting your student pumped about coming to St. Leo, and these dates should be included in that. But again, check in and check out are there. If you have a really unique exception where you need to arrive early or arrive late, depending on the circumstance, we can work with families on getting the student in or staying late, but there is a fee associated with that. So we want to be really upfront about that. And I'll be real honest, if it comes down to money and me making the money or me saving the money and the student coming when they need to, I'd rather not take the money. Mm-hmm. So these dates really do help us. They help us. This is when we're ready for all of our students to arrive. This is when we're ready for our students to leave. So the exception does need to be very important. And again, there is absolutely a fee associated with that.
All right. And one thing I want to point out too, our campus safety office, they do shuttles. So based around those dates that you're looking at there on your screen, if your son or daughter is flying into Tampa Airport, we have a series of shuttles, and you can actually go onto our website, and a little search bar that you'll see on the right side there, if you just type in shuttle, you'll be able to see the information about that and how your son or daughter can make sure that they get on one of those shuttles. We'll take them for free back and forth to the airport as long as they are able to make their flight coincide with those times, and we'll get them there on those dates.
Mm-hmm. And all that's through Campus Safety. So again, they need to sign up by the deadline Campus Safety has promoted. They can cancel later. They just can't add in later. So if you're not sure, go ahead and book that space, because it's easier to cancel. It saves you the money of having to pay for that cab.
Definitely.
Okay. And this is what, again, the important dates would look like on the website. So it's just a screenshot. So you can see I didn't even get all the dates for the fall in that screenshot. So lots of important dates available on our website. So at your convenience, you can check those out. Conduct and policies. All of our policies are online. The Code of Conduct for all St. Leo University students, residential or non-residential, is on the website. The online version is always going to be the most up-to-date. So if we were to have a mid-year policy change, the online version would be up-to-date, would be updated, and that's the one that we would be enforcing and expecting students to know. So that's a really important link for us. The Guides to Residence Living is for our on-campus students. So that'll touch on things that only apply to residential students, such as visitors in the residence halls, room changes, quiet hours, decoration of rooms, etc. So that's all there. I do want to touch on two policies, because we've been talking about FERPA, and both our alcohol and illegal substance policies, per our Code of Conduct, we do parent notifications with these. We only do a basic notification. So on any first-time offense, for alcohol, for a student who is under 21, parents would get a written communication via U.S. Postal Service letting the parent know that the student has been found in violation of the alcohol policy and what the sanctions are. And the sanctions for our alcohol policy are in the Code of Conduct right with the policy. To be really clear, it tends to be one of our most frequently violated policies. So in general, we have our policies listed and then a section with possible sanctions. The alcohol policy and illegal substance policy are the two that have the sanctions listed right with the policy. We just want to be real clear.
So there's no surprise. If something happens, you know what the consequences can be.
No surprise. Yep, absolutely. Illegal substance is the other. With illegal substance, again, regardless of age, it's legal by law.
Right.
Just like alcohol is illegal by law for under 21. Illegal substance would also get a parental notification. And our illegal substance, to be really clear, has some very heavy sanctions for a first-time violation, including removal from the residence halls without refund for that semester, including 40 hours of community service, drug counseling. There are quite a few other sanctions in there too. So we don't want students using illegal substances on our policy. And again, we get sometimes students feel they're punitive, but it's not. We need to be educational, and we need to protect the students who want to live on campus and be safe in a drug-free environment. That's
Right.
what we're promoting. So we do take that very seriously.
Definitely.
Our conduct system, how it'll work is if your student is involved in a policy violation, some staff of the university, it could be a student staff like a resident assistant, could be professional staff, one of us called out 3 a.m. to respond to an incident, it could be campus safety. If any university staff find a student violating a policy, they will address it with a student. We try to stop whatever negative behavior is happening. And from there, the student then goes about the rest of their evening or morning, as the case may be. They receive an email to their St. Leo email account inviting them to schedule a hearing. We can't force students to attend hearings, and we do let the students schedule that so it's convenient with their class schedule or if they're working. We're not trying to cause an inconvenience with the hearing, but we want to give the student a chance to meet with a professional staff member serving as the conduct officer and share their side of the story. After that hearing, a determination will be made whether that student is in violation or not. If they are in violation, appropriate sanctions will be determined. And all of those findings will again be emailed out to the student's St. Leo email account, so the student has all of those. If there are deadlines for any of the sanctions, that's included. Descriptions are included. So we put everything right in there. So again, if your student's involved in a policy violation and you're not sure, you can just have them email those right onto you, forward.
Right.
Yeah, an easy button push.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I think an important thing to say, that you mentioned that for first-time violations on illegal substances and things like that, parents will get a general notification. But for the most part, other things that happen on campus, it's going to go straight to the student, and it's their responsibility. We touched on it actually in the last webinar, talking about the eLine account and student's email address. That's really the hub of information for students. So they're expected to look at that and to, you know, once an email is sent to them, it's expected that they're going to take a look at that and read it, and you know that it's not lost there. And we document when those sort of emails are sent out, and that's all part of the process. So really, that's the hub, and students need to be connected to that.
Absolutely. And again, the student has a choice to schedule the hearing. If the student doesn't schedule the hearing and does not contact a conduct officer, we'll hear an abstention, which again is not to the student's benefit because then they lose the chance to share their side of the story. And we're going off the documentation of all the witnesses involved, all the staff who responded, but we're missing that piece of your student getting to share their story. So we want students to schedule hearings. And I'll say for the most part, I think we have 95% of our students who will attend their hearings. So we have a really good return rate with those. Right. But again, as a parent, partner with us in getting your students out there.
Yes.
Though again, the only ones you will be notified about will be alcohol if they're under 21, illegal substances, any.
Right.
And then if there's a really severe sanction that could involve their removal from housing or from the university, parents would be notified for that.
Right.
Okay. Conduct, again, hearings. When the student receives their findings email, so you are found in violation, here are your sanctions. At the bottom of that email, it includes a link about how students can appeal. It includes the time frame, the link, it includes all the information they need to appeal. Students cannot appeal because they don't like the decision. So I don't like that you're giving me an alcohol course and 2 points and you're telling my parents just because I had a beer. Well, you don't have to like it. You're 18 and that's our policy and those are the sanctions.
Right.
And I want you to take that educational course. And there's a $50 fee associated with that that doesn't come to the university. The course is offered through a third-party provider. That fee goes directly to them. So no, I don't see any of that. It's not benefiting me at all. But I want you to have those educational facts so you think twice before you violate that law again. So again, whether you like it or not, you cannot appeal based on liking sanctions. There needs to be something. Information that has been discovered that wasn't in the initial hearing or finding, a problem with how the our process went according to how it's described in the Code of Conduct. And again, the appeal statement at the bottom lists the reasons why you can't appeal. So all that information is right there. We're not trying to hide it. We want to be as transparent as possible. So students will have that as well.
All right. Very plain and simple. And we know nobody listening on this is going to have any issues with that, but we have to tell you.
Hopefully not.
All right.
Okay. The sanction we get the most questions about is our point sanction. Points for us are kind of an internal indicator that a student is going down a negative path. So for us, 12 is the number we don't want to get to. At 12 points, a student will not be with us in residence life. At 12, they might not be with the university. And here's how points work. An alcohol violation is 2 points first. Second alcohol violation, 4 to 6 points. An illegal substance violation, first, 8 to 11 points. Okay? And those are the two policies that have the sanctions listed right there with them. So those point numbers, right there with that policy. For other policy violations, points can be determined on an on-case basis by the hearing officer. So say, the student's had an alcohol, and this isn't an alcohol, but it's something that we really just need to give that student a reality check, then they might have points associated with it. Points only last for 1 year. So when I say don't get to 12 points, we're not talking about their college career. We're talking about one 12-month period. So 12 points would be a lot. Mm-hmm. You think you're getting to 3 or 4 alcohol violations in just 1 year to get to 12 points.
Right.
It's a legal substance plus something else to
right.
get to 12 points. And those are very serious things for us. So again, the point system is just an internal indicator for us and for the student to let them see, like, here's a path of you being really successful as a student, and here's where you're going that's not going to be successful. They only last a year, so it's not going to stick with you forever.
Right.
So when we give the points, we have that conversation with the student. We say, and again, the points are for alcohol and illegal substance, so we can have that conversation right in the hearing. Here are the minimum sanctions. Do you have questions about them? Here are the points associated with it. Here's how I want you not to get to 12.
Right.
And again, they only last 12 months.
Right.
So 12 and 12 months, I'll be honest, I've been here 3 years and, knock on wood, have not had anyone reach that.
Great.
So again, it's not supposed to be punitive. It's a way for students to help understand I'm adding things up that are negative, and here's the line for where I'll be crossing. 12 is too much.
And there's plenty of room for a student to redeem themselves if they get on that path.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So that's our point system. What to bring. And again, these are available on our website. A quick how-to for our website. The easiest way to access our website, I think, is to go to the main St. Leo website, and there's a Find It Fast search bar. If you type in Residence Life into that search bar, it'll bring up a list, and it literally will bring up Residence Life staff, Residence Life FAQ. So you can click on whatever's easiest for you. And then once you're in any of the Residence Life pages, they all have the side navigation. But I think that's the easiest way. Just type in Residence Life. Then you don't have to remember that we're under Resources, Residence/Life. That gets complicated.
Yeah.
Find It Fast, Residence Life, you're good to go.
All right.
Okay. So I'm going to touch on a few of these things. Alarm clock might seem silly. Most of our students will use their cell phones as an alarm clock. Students miss classes because they forget to set their alarm clock or their phone, or they turn it off because they don't want to take a call, or an alarm clock is a very useful thing to have, even if they use their cell phone. A backup is helpful.
Yeah.
They will obviously need their hygiene items. As first-year students, they're living in community-style halls, so a shower caddy is a great idea. That's just one of those carry buckets where you can put your shampoo and toothbrush and everything in to walk to the bathroom and walk back. It's great to have a shower caddy that has drainage in the bottom, so when they're carrying it back to their room, it's not dripping.
That's useful.
It is useful. Yep. Certainly linens, desk items, food items, pictures and posters, with the caveat that the way to mount pictures and posters is with that mounting putty. Typically, it's that blue reusable adhesive. Tape can pull paint off the wall, and depending on the wall, can pull drywall off the wall. Mm-hmm. We'll still have students who will use duct tape, and you're like, oh, no.
Man.
You're using any tape, painter's tape, but still no.
Right.
Use the reusable adhesive, the mounting putty. So no nails. The 3 millimeters, people, I think every store in the country advertises, this is great for college, and then they'll use the D word, dorms. Oh, no. It's not great for dorms. It's not great for my residence halls. The reusable adhesive, I know they say you can pull on the bottom, it'll come off without any damage. That is not true. I've been working in residence life for over a decade now. I tell you it's not true. It will cause damage, and that damage has to be repaired.
Right. And
to repair it, we have to bill your student, which we would like them how to do.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Cleaning items, laundry basket, hangers, small entertainment unit. So that 50-inch TV is not going to help your student. It's going to give them a headache. It's going to ruin their eyesight. The rooms are not that big. They're good. They're great size compared to other universities I've worked at. But no 50-inch. Small entertainment unit, please. Emergency
I think you
items.
just shattered some dreams.
I know. Oh my gosh. And we actually do get calls.
Yeah.
What's the appropriate size? I'll be honest, I wouldn't go over low 30s.
Okay.
I think 20s are plenty healthy.
Yeah.
But if you really need a big screen for a residence hall room, low 30s. I wouldn't go above that. Emergency items. Again, these things seem silly. I guarantee your student's going to want a flashlight at some point. They're going to want some Band-Aids and some aspirin, and they're going to want a screwdriver. So those are really useful things. The apartments have some different things, so full kitchen supplies and shower curtain. Surge protector extension strip, it does need to have that surge protection. It's that on-off automatic breaker. That surge comes through. We want to protect the equipment that's connected. And then, you like this last one, I added it. It's on our website too. I really love this one. We want them to have an excitement to meet new friends and get involved on campus. That's what we want. That's actually.
All right.
Okay. What not to bring. These are policy violations. So unless you're in an apartment, hot plates, toaster ovens, George Foreman type grills, frying pans are a no. And that's per the fire marshal, actually. So
Okay.
you can call that a university policy, but it's a university policy for the state of Florida. And when I worked in West Virginia and Virginia, it's also their policy.
And
These fire marshals talk to each other.
we don't want to upset the St. Leo Fire Marshal.
Nope. Nope. So not unless it's in a kitchen. And the kitchen has the fire extinguisher that's meant for a kitchen, so it's okay for those type of equipments. No loss. We do get questions about that. We don't allow decorative alcohol container collections. It doesn't matter how old the student is. So it doesn't matter if they're 23, they still can't have a decorative alcohol collection. So if they have a bottle that's empty that held alcohol that's really sentimental to them, they should leave it at home with you because we will make them throw it out or dispose of it. So if it's sentimental, don't bring it to campus. Again, no extension cords, no multi-prong adapters. Again, they don't have surge protection built in. No adhesives other than that mounting putty. No candles or incense. Again, candles would be a policy we see a lot of violations for. And obviously, again, a fire hazard. And then no pets. And this is another one I'll touch on with parents. We have a lot of issues with pets. We'll get students who will call in complaining, they've been just bit up by fleas. How are you getting bit up by fleas? Well, my roommate's had a cat for 3 months. Yeah, keeping your mouth shut about that is obviously physically hurting you now because now your legs are covered with red bites and you're in pain constantly.
Right.
So no pets. We're really serious at that. First time we find a pet that's not a fish, $100 fine. And then $25 a day on top of that. So we're not playing around with pets. And again, that comes down to safety. It comes down to allergies and fleas and all sorts of things we don't want your student to have to live with.
It's just not a good environment to have pets anyway. They should be focused on doing school stuff and
It's not good for the pets.
Right.
It's really not.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then no weapons. That should be hopefully something everyone's on board with.
Yep.
But I think we did used to store guns for students who like to hunt. We don't do that on campus at all. So it doesn't matter if they like to hunt. It's that hunting gun, even though it's for a good purpose, still can't come onto our campus.
All right.
That's a safety issue for us. Okay, first year residence halls. So you can see I have two screenshots here. So the larger screenshot is what you'll see if you go and look up our residence halls. So this is one of the first year halls, Henderson. So it has some basic information and then it has some quick facts. And then the smaller screenshot that's down to the corner of that, if you look at the picture of Henderson Hall that's in the bigger screenshot, you can see in the bottom corner of it, it has a bunch of light white squares kind of cascading off each other. If you touch that with your mouse, that'll create the lower screenshot, which is pictures of our floor plans and more pictures of the facility.
Oh,
so
great.
the one picture you see on the website isn't it. If you click on that little picture button in the bottom, it'll bring up a whole bunch of others. And again, you have the navigational arrows on either end, so you can look through the pictures and floor plans. And that helps with dimensions and measuring and figuring out what you want to bring. So again, that's all there for you.
Great.
All of our first year halls are community style, which I love for first year students because this is how you make the friends you're going to keep for the next 4 years. You're living with a roommate in a double room. Double rooms are lining both sides of the corridor hallway, and then there's a community bathroom. So you're going to have to not only get to know your roommate, but get to know the girl down the hall who's brushing her teeth next to you, or the guy down the hall that sings really loudly in the shower, and you're going to have those funny memories. So when you watch them walk across the stage at graduation, you're going to be like, oh, that's that kid who always did. So that's what we want. We want that interaction for that first year. Once they move into upper class housing, they'll have single options.
Right.
But for that first year, we want them to have the connections. That's how they're going to be successful students long term for us here at St. Leo.
And that's the traditional way. I think a lot of parents who are probably listening to this, you remember living two people to a room and the community bathroom and things like that. A lot of the students nowadays I know grow up with private rooms their whole time, but really freshman year I think it's a great time for students to be able to meet each other, and they're forced out there to mingle with others on their hall.
And you know what I love best about it is that it builds tolerance and respect for people who are different than you. I don't care how great your roommate is, at some point they are going to get on your last nerve. And being able to learn how to live with them respectfully, especially because so many students come to us now coming from having lived in private bedrooms.
Right.
Sometimes with their own bathrooms.
Right.
Which is great. And I think that can be a really big, awkward transition for them. Now I have to share a bedroom and a bathroom.
Right.
But it builds so many important life skills. And again, after this year, they can go to singles and never have to live with someone again.
Yep.
But we really do see a difference in our students because of this. And you can see we have 2 first-year women's residence halls and 2 men. Marmion and Snyder is typically referred to as Marmion and Snyder. Mm-hmm. It is one physical building. The women are on one side and the men are on the other. And in between, there is a giant community space called the Lion's Den and a lobby area. So that's the only way to get between the 2 buildings. So Marmion and Snyder. And then Henderson and Benoit are separate halls that are next to each other. And again, they're all community style. So those are our first year housing options. Roommate request. When do you find out you're having roommate assignments?
I've been getting that question a lot.
Yeah, so have we. Typically we get it out between July 1st and 15th, but fingers crossed, our assistant director is working really hard to get that out by this Friday, the June date. Right. So it might not happen, so don't hold me to that. But we're hoping for the end of this week or early next week, so the early part of that time frame. It's going to go to their St. Louis email address, and it's going to have their building and room assignment and their roommate, or roommates, as the case may be.
Okay.
So it'll all be in there. Now, it won't have contact information for the roommates. We get a lot of questions about that, too, and some of that comes back down to FERPA. Mm-hmm. So what we do at St. Leo is for email addresses, it's firstname.lastname@email.stleo.edu. So I can't give out the email address, but I can tell you that the email address for students, if I was a student, it would be kimberly.mcconnell@email.stleo.edu.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sure the students will be able to find each other on Facebook and all of that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And they do.
Yeah.
And the other way they can access each other is through the SLU 360 program. Now, this access should be shared through the admissions counselor. So the admissions counselor should have sent all of your students this link already. They log into it. They can share their preferences, what they like, what they want for a roommate. There's discussion boards. So they can find a roommate who's good for them. Now, here's the caveat. The deadline for the request is July 1. So they can still request after that. We just don't make any promises. And part of that is, at this point, we're hoping to get the word out for what assignments are.
Right.
In 2 days now. That's our dream goal, in 2 days. So after that, they will already be assigned. So request out of nowhere, we don't have a lot of open space to move them. So we'll play as best we can with making accommodations to request, but we don't promise after July 1.
All right. Okay. So this is very timely right now. Parents, if your son or daughter still hasn't logged into that U360 or hasn't checked their email, now's the time if they're interested in partnering up with someone and having some say in who they're going to be, who their roommate's going to be.
That being said, don't get nervous about that, because there is no statistical evidence that selecting your own roommate assists in having a better roommate connection. That's just not accurate at all.
Okay.
So a lot of times they'll ask, what roommate matching questions do you have? There is no statistical evidence. Again, I've been in this field a decade.
Yeah.
There's no statistical evidence that supports that being a good indicator of success with a roommate. I think what it comes down to is how willing are the roommates going to be to compromise with each other,
right,
and get over the hurdles, because hurdles are inevitably going to exist. I don't care if it's your best friend since you were 2, or if it's a complete stranger you meet for the first day on move-in. So don't get stressed out about that. Mm-hmm. If your student really cares, then that's okay. They can request.
Right.
But if they don't care, that's okay too, because again, in terms of statistics,
it'll work out.
It's going to work out. Okay. And now it's the best time for any questions you have. So Steven's going to be reading off some questions,
yep,
and then he and I will tag team answering them as best we can.
All right. So yeah, we've had a few questions come through already, but if you have something in the back of your mind that you've been thinking about as we're talking, now's the time. Go ahead and type it in. We'll take a few minutes to answer those questions. And if we don't get to any of them, or if we don't get to some of them, we will be sure to follow up with you. All right, here's one parent, and I think I can answer this one. The parent says, we're fortunate enough to live close by and have our daughter live on campus. How active can we be on the campus with her in regards to activities, as long as she still wants us to be involved? And I think KJ would agree with this. I think for activities that are intended for students on campus, we really don't want parents to come to those activities. If there's a pizza party or things like that, those are for students. Those are great opportunities for students to get to know each other and immerse themselves on campus. Occasionally there'll be an activity where we may have a big guest speaker on campus, and we'll send out a message to alumni and parents within 50-mile radius, and you're welcome to come to that sort of thing. But really, I think the best thing to come to is Fall Family Festival, and that's going to be the weekend of October 11th, October 12th. And aside from that, I don't think your student, son or daughter, would want you showing up on Wednesday evening for pizza party night and things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, Fall Family Festival, just to plug that, it's a great event held by Campus Life Student Activities.
Yep.
And they have fair food and activities, and I mean, they have everything.
Yep.
And Stephen does parent programming, so
Yeah.
do mark that on your calendar. It's worth it.
There'll be plenty of stuff going on. It's going to be, I was meeting with some of the guys over in Student Services today, and there'll be breakfast with President Kirk. He'll be there, and we'll have plenty of stuff going on. And we'll be sending out information about that in mid-July, so you can expect to see a save-the-date card around mid-July coming in the mail. Let's see. Okay, a couple of questions here, I guess, maybe some clarification on things that you said. What size was the optimum TV size for one of the rooms?
Optimum, I would say 20s or less. But if your student needs a big television, again, I wouldn't go any larger than 32. I think it's going to be uncomfortable if you go more than 32.
And that's one of those things, too, I know in speaking with parents and students, and even having been a college student, once you find out who your roommate is, it's good to get in communication with them and find out, because if both of you are showing up with 42-inch flat screens, I know some students may enjoy that, but I think it would be kind of tough. It'd be taking up most of the wall space there. But
and again, you have to think about where will it go,
right?
Because the desk space is going to be the most convenient place for it,
right?
Everything else is not going to have room to sit on top of it, and we don't let you wall mount. So
yeah.
So do you want to take away? How much space do you want to take away from your students' study space?
Right.
You like that guilt trip right there? Go for the small TV.
That's it.
Get them out of their room.
Yeah. Okay. If alcohol and/or illegal substances are found in the room, how would you determine the guilty person when more than one person lives in that room?
And that's a good question. And again, the hearing is really going to make a big part of that.
Right.
But if there's any doubt at all that that student knew it was there and didn't do anything, then they're responsible.
Okay.
So that's a good one. So if they know something bad is going on, we get a lot of times they don't want to rat out somebody else. They don't want to be, a sneak. They don't want to live with someone in an uncomfortable situation. They need to come and talk to our professional staff. We can talk through some of our approaches.
Mm-hmm.
If we approach it this way, will that maintain your anonymity in such a way that you're still comfortable? If not, do you want a room change before we approach it? But at some point, those things come out.
Right.
So we're going to know. So yeah.
Right.
That's a really good question.
And again, all of what we do is not meant to be punitive, but to help the student make good decisions. And so part of that good decision-making process is recognizing, okay, my roommate is not following the policy, and maybe the student can approach it with the roommate, and if they feel that they're not able to, then they should speak with our professional staff.
Yeah, but we're not, we don't want students to get sneaky.
Right.
Our policy is pretty broad, so we can hit on anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want students coming back to the residence hall high as a kite and being disruptive. I don't want them smoking in the room. But illegal substance isn't just about, having the drug and using it in the room. Is it in their possession?
Mm-hmm.
And possession being, do they have it, or have they inhaled it in such a way that it's still in their system? There are a lot of ways to interpret that, and the reality is we don't want it on our campus, period.
Right.
So we're going to take it seriously. So there's not a lot of leeway to say, well, they just put it in their pocket for a few minutes, or they did it off campus, so it shouldn't be an issue that they came back so high that it is still an issue for us.
Yeah.
And we want to be really upfront and transparent about that. No illegal substance.
Right. KJ knows all the excuses, so you can't get one by her. She's heard them all.
And again, they lose their housing. First offense. And second offense, they're not at St. Neo anymore. So those are sanctions we don't want students to have. I don't want students to have those. But more than that, I want the rest of the students living in that community to feel safe.
Right.
And not to have to live with it.
Right.
And so I'm going to support those students. And if your student happens to be the one who's violating that illegal substance, then they are going to have to face those consequences because of all the other parents who are on this call whose students want not to live with it.
Right. and we want our students to live by our core values and to make those good decisions based on those.
Yes, we do.
All right, another question here. Let's see. What is the matriculation ceremony on move-in day about? I can take that one. Basically, think of graduation, but this is the start of their ceremony, of their college career. So it's just a little ceremony. It's not as big as graduation, of course, but it's like the opposite of graduation. It's the start instead of the end of their college career, and it's you'll hear from I believe usually Dr. Kirk is there to give some sort of address, and vice presidents, and it's just a nice time for students to kick off and get started as freshmen. Okay. My son doesn't know anyone on campus. How will his roommate be selected?
For students who haven't mutually selected, we do match the best we can based off of what they input in terms of preferences with the SLU 360 matching questions. So I think the primary questions we tend to use because of parent request, to be honest, not even student request, parent request, are we match smoking, non-smoking. A lot of times we'll have students will say, I'm on this athletic team. I don't have a roommate request, but I want someone else from this athletic team. So if the request is more general, then if we have that information, and that's one we do have, we get rosters, that's something we can follow up on. Sometimes we'll get questions about, I want someone who has lived in this state or city. Well, we don't always have that information.
Right.
So it needs to be information we can match easily. And at this point, because again, we're so close to that deadline, if it's not specific, I'm not making promises.
Right.
But I think some of those, I like to stay up late, I like to go to bed early, I like to study in quiet, I like to study with noise. Those are some of the basic ones that, we'll try to match up, but again, they're not always great indicators.
Right.
And to be really honest, about 50% of the time, the students are not filling those out.
Okay.
So a lot of that's parent response, and so it doesn't always, again, it's not always a true indicator of what the student will do.
Right.
And sometimes the students change. At home, they always did, get up early, but now they realize they don't have classes until 11 a.m., so now they're the person who sleeps in late. So sometimes there are habit changes, too. You just can't always account for those.
Right. And something else I think for a parent tip here, I think, is to keep in mind, this doesn't necessarily mean this is the person that your student's going to be rooming with for the next 4 years. A lot of times students over the first semester or second semester, they'll get to know other people, and then they'll decide that, okay, in my sophomore year, there's 4 of us that are going to live together, and that may or may not be the person they lived with during their freshman year, but then they'll fall into a group, and there'll be challenges in the first couple of semesters sometimes, but then as the students get to choose who they're rooming with, they make their friends, and it gets a little bit easier, I think.
And we have a 2-week room freeze, room change freeze, roommate change freeze at the beginning of each semester. So those first 2 weeks, they do have to live with that roommate. After those 2 weeks, if it's not working out, they just need to be in contact with our office. And we'll find someone who can swap with them. If there are no open spaces, we'll do our best to make sure that they get out of that situation. We're not trying to make people miserable.
Right.
But that 2 weeks for us is a period for both students to get to understand who they are in this environment. And to see, do we have enough tolerance to make this work for a year? Maybe yes, maybe no. But 2 weeks, and then after that, if it's not working, that's fine. Send them to us, and we really will do our best to get them out of a situation they're not comfortable with.
All right, definitely. Okay, let's see. How would someone go about securing private items from theft, like golf clubs, stereo equipment, etc.? And I think we're going to have a webinar later on. I think it's in the middle of September, where we'll have our campus safety representatives here talking, but I know I've heard them speak many times, and a lot of that is just basic things like locking your door and keeping tabs on things, right?
Yep, locking the door is actually a policy.
Yeah.
They need to lock their door for safety purposes, and a lot of times students like to have a safe for the smaller valuables, but for the bigger valuables, it comes down to, again, that relationship with the roommate. We do have video cameras in the public areas of our facilities, so the hallways, they don't view into student rooms. We get questions about that a lot. No, they don't do that. We have, a lot of our facilities have community restrooms. Even if there are private bedrooms in the student rooms, they'll still have, guest bathrooms downstairs on the first floor. No, the camera doesn't look anywhere into that.
Right.
So there's still a lot of privacy. But if we need to, we could go and review that footage. Now, we don't watch it. We're not watching for things to happen. Again, we're a small university. We don't have the staff to do that, even if we had the desire to.
Right.
But that can help us retroactively follow up. And again, every building has signs all over the place saying there are cameras that are recording, so recording devices are in the buildings. So I think that helps act as a deterrent because students know I can't walk out of there with that 32-inch TV,
right?
Because it'll be seen by the camera.
And this is a very safe environment. Our campus safety staff is on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so they're always there. But it is important to keep those things in mind, like just basic things, locking your door and keeping tabs on things, because occasionally things may happen. But for the most part, it's a very safe environment, and aside from taking basic precautions, students shouldn't have to think about that a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see.
While Steven's looking up a question, I want to put another plug for Move-In Day.
Okay.
One of the things that helps us a lot on Move-In Day isn't even from our office. It's the student IDs, because student IDs will get you in and out of the building. So during Move-In itself, doors are open for Move-In. But as soon as Move-In ends, which is before the matriculation, those doors close, and the only way you're getting in or out is with that ID card. That line to get IDs made can be really long, unless you take advantage of the information you're getting from the first year experience office. You can email in a picture, and they will have that ID made for you. And when you check in with your key, we give it right to you, and you don't have to get in the line at all to get the ID. So I really want to plug that. That's a great way to avoid a line and save yourself an insane amount of time and headaches.
That's a great time saver, because I know our train stop office can get inundated on move-in day. So if it's done beforehand, great. If you have to get in line, then it takes a little while for them to take the picture and get the IDs printed up. So great tip there. Someone asked a question here. Are we supposed to attend both St. Leo days or just one? And I think what you're referring to are the summer fests that we have coming up. One will be this Saturday, and one is on July 13th. Basically, summer fests are a couple of events that we have on campus for our incoming freshman class. We've invited, our admissions office has invited students in the local area. You can come to, I would suggest just coming to one of those events. It'll be a good time for students to meet each other, parents to meet each other. I'll be here on campus. We'll have a parent panel. If you're not able to make it, and if you live too far away to drive, or if you're out of state, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Students will have a full week of orientation events when they get here, and that's really the important part for students, to get to know each other. But I would say attend one of those. We also have summer send-offs if your student lives up in New Jersey, Long Island, Boston. We do have one in Sarasota area, and we have one in the Maryland, D.C. area, and one in Nassau, Bahamas, where those are 6 regional areas where we get a good cluster of students every year, and we have events that are hosted by alumni or parents in their local area, just to get parents and students from those areas to get to meet each other before class. So you should have received some information about those, and those will be taking place over the next month and a half. Okay, let's see. If the student signed up for a roommate online and both parties agreed, does this mean it will be a done deal, or is there a chance that they will not be roommates?
Yeah, if we had it by last week, then it should be a done deal.
Okay.
And if by some chance we missed it, we just need that communication.
Okay.
Now, that being said, sometimes we do have students who change their minds about matches. So, I requested Jill, and then I met Erica later, and I liked Erica better. So I didn't tell Jill, but now I'm requesting Erica, and Jill's kind of left hanging. And so Jill calls the office, like, what happened? I thought we mutually requested. You sure did.
Yeah.
But again, that we'll let you know.
Okay.
But it does have to be a mutual request. So I'm glad that language was in there.
Right.
But if it's mutually requested, then it should happen.
All right.
So again, if there's a circumstance where it didn't, let us know, and we'll do our best to fix that.
All right. Great. Someone here asked if there's anything specific that people should know for move-in day if you're going to be in the biology boot camp. Actually, we did an entire webinar. We pre-recorded it, and it's out there, and it's up on our website, and you can get to it if you just go to YouTube and type in St. Leo Parents, all one word. You'll see a webinar on the entire thing about biology boot camp, and that's been sent out to the students who are interested in it, and we answered in there questions about the schedule and things that students should keep in mind. So if you have a student who may be attending the biology boot camp, go ahead and look that up. And actually, Bill asked that question. I'll go ahead and send you an email afterwards with the direct link to that. Let's see. Does the student ID have access to the, someone said dorm here. I'm going to say residence hall Like a hotel key card?
Yeah, our cards are proxy cards, so you don't actually swipe. You hold it up in proximity. So I think it's 1 to 4 or 5 inches away. You hold it up. The door will beep and let you in. So students will have access to the building they live in. And then we have some community space in the first floor of apartment 5, where the fish tank. I'm not sure if you've seen all the information about that, but it was on Tanked this past year. We're pretty excited. Animal Planet's Tanked. But there are nap pods in there. There are some really fun arcade games. Skee ball is a personal favorite, but some of the students like the side-by-side racing. I'm bad at that. I go to the skee ball. But there are a bunch of arcade games in there. Some of the students will call it our on-campus Dave & Buster's. There's no food. It's just the games. But that's what they'll call it.
Right.
So students will also have access to that. So that community space on the first floor of apartment 5, and then the building they live in. And that's the only access. So again, that helps protect the students who are living in the buildings. So not anyone from campus can get into your student's building. Only the students who live there or the guests that they should be escorting.
All right. Okay, and I think I've got just 1 or 2 more questions left here. And if there's any others that come in, because we're closing in on an hour here, I'll go ahead and I'll answer those afterward, and KJ and I will get back with you by email tomorrow. But someone here is asking a question about the residence halls being co-ed. Can you give a little bit further explanation? Because I'm not sure if maybe people fully understand how it's set up in terms of, men and women are kept separate.
That's a great question. Our first-year residence halls, because they're community style and have shared bathrooms, are same gender.
Right.
For obvious, again, that goes back to safety for us.
Right.
Now, our upper-class residence halls each have their own bathrooms within the room or suite or apartment, depending on what style it is in the upper-class housing. And so by room, apartment, or suite, that gender is set, but the students next door in the separate self-contained room, suite, or apartment could be a different gender.
Right.
So that's how we play co-ed. It's by rooms. They still need to live with someone of the same gender for that living space,
Right.
bedroom space, and bathroom space. But the hallways themselves could be co-ed.
Right. So yeah. So just I guess to explain a little bit more, if you might have 4 men and 4 women living next to each other in an apartment, but that apartment is self-contained. It'll have its own showering facilities and all of that, and so it's just like living in a regular apartment that you may find anywhere else. And for freshmen, it's all separate by gender.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps up all the questions that we have. That's all we have for this session, and I hope you'll join us for our next session on August 7th as we take on the topic of student employment on campus. You won't want to miss that one. If you haven't signed up yet, you can do so by visiting the website in stleo.edu/Parent Connection Webinars. That's all one word. And scroll down to the August 7th date. I want to thank KJ for being here. Thanks for all that great information. Really appreciate it. And parents, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and forward them to me afterwards or to KJ. We'd be happy to answer those. At the end of this webinar, you'll receive a quick 3-question survey. Please take a few seconds to let us know what you thought about this evening's presentation. All right, good night, everyone.